Welcome to this episode of the Comedy Defect podcast. My name is Winter, I'm a comedian, and this is my show. Those that are new to the show, welcome. Those that are old to the show, welcome back. This is going to be a mega short intro, and it's going to be a record because I'm driving to Cornwall tomorrow for gigs. Yes, comedy is happening again. Weirdly, this episode was recorded during lockdown when there was no gigs, and we were complaining about that, so it's an irony that the gigs should start, and this, we talk about the end of them, end of days, and the apocalypse that comedy is completely decimated. But that's a bit of fun, eh? Hey, weird the way things happen. But this is recorded at Christmas with a very funny and inventive comedian called Joe Foster. If you ever see him on a bill, go and see him. He's an excellent comedian. He's on Instagram, he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook. Go and check his stuff out. He's absolutely brilliant. He plays all the major clubs like Top Secret, all these places, but he lives in Brighton, so if you're ever down with the Brighton Fringe, go and check out his show. He's got a show coming out called Joe Foster Hits the Roof, and he's been writing that over the lockdown, and I guarantee you it will be an excellent show. So go and check him out. So that's it for this intro. This is episode 89 with Joe Foster. Enjoy. So Joe, welcome to the Comedy Defect. Thank you for giving me an hour of your time. And how have you been? What have you been doing?
Stuff.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been great, man. I've been pretty good. It's been like pretty amazing, really. I mean, I got furloughed, which was pretty awesome. And I live in Brighton. I'm coming to you live from the city of Brighton at this moment in time. I just chilled out on the beach for about 6 months because it's right down the road from my house, and then sort of watched the chaos from. I've got Waitrose opposite me, and the queuing became quite aggressive. So I was monitoring that. I was commentating over that on Instagram, which my girlfriend politely told me to stop doing about 4 days in. But I told her I'm making an online presence. It was pretty good. And then I found out, so when we were really, 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 really locked down, I found out that I've got access to the roof through a loft hatch in my attic.
Oh.
So basically, when we couldn't go and sit outside, I had a nice place with a lovely view to just sort of chill out. Although getting to the roof is a little bit dangerous, unfortunately.
Did you have a barbecue up there any day?
So I haven't had a barbecue, but what was really funny is that everybody was appearing from their own respective roofs. Like literally, like I've started off just me, and then gradually everyone saw me and followed my lead. So then I had a sort of a roof community.
Nice.
I kind of just went up there, which was really nice when you were being moved along from anywhere, just to be able to sit outside and have a beer. Because the generation before us, the luckiest cunts in the world, they were like, can't believe these kids flouting rules. But if you don't have a garden, you don't have a garden, do you? And no one has a garden because it's impossible. So unless you have a garden, do you have a garden?
I've got a small bit out the back, but it's not really like a. It's
Oh, mama!
But I don't live.
I didn't realise you were affluent, Winter.
I don't live in Brighton though. You're talking about like the second London, aren't you? Really, Brighton is, if anything, pokier. It's like Japan-sized places, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, true. I mean, but it's ridiculous. Anyway,
I don't have a beach. I've got a canal, which I wouldn't go sit next to. It's not the nicest, funnest, kind of most relaxing area. People running by, bikes coming by. It's just not a nice place to be, really. But
what would have been nice is that so here obviously there was the community of judgment. So everything you did was judged by people, and it was sort of felt a bit like being in a fishbowl when you're just sort of just walking along and everyone's like, "Are you exercising?"
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if it was raining, there'd be people on Facebook being like, "Oh, no one's come down to the beach today." It's like, yeah, because it's fucking raining, mate. I felt sorry for so many people who were just literally stuck in, because at least I found a little bit of outdoor space. But then comedy collapsed.
I know.
Comedy pretty much collapsed. I've seen, it's been quite depressing week. You've got people who I would believe to be headliners working in Tesco's and stuff like that just to sort of make ends meet. And gigging's been a bit of a mission because, let's be honest, comedy promoters weren't that friendly before the coronavirus.
This is very true.
So now when you're ringing them, they've got a million people who all want to get on. I've been doing some new material gigs. It's been a bit difficult to get anything anywhere near. Have you done anything?
I've done like about 4 gigs since the lockdown happened, and I'm like, it's just it's so tough trying to get any like. In fairness, I've sort of kind of went right as you said. There's so many people trying to get into these places. I was like, look, fine. I'll do something else for a little bit. That's not a problem. I'll keep writing. I'll keep hone.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that are further in the game ahead of me that I'm not going to get a look in. Do you know? It's
Yeah.
what it is. I'm going to be honest about it. There's going to be this, as you say, headliners that are going for 30 years. They're going to be like, oh, okay, I need a gig. I'm like, oh, you're lucky if you get a spot, and you're so grateful for the spot if you get one, because there's just
Yeah.
so many people at it. A gig up in Hungerford, and Adam Bloom was on the bill, and like there's a couple of others of us, and we're like, oh man, this is brilliant. Like this is so nice. It was outside, and I was like, oh, I haven't had a gig in like months, and it was just you weren't sure if like you were gonna remember your set or it was gonna go fine, but it was absolutely lovely, and they were great. Like it was such a different thing. I like had the lockdown haircut, which means no haircut, and
Yeah.
like it was down to my shoulders, and that's like I was like, I wonder if they like me with long hair, So
Yeah. I
so,
wonder how this is going to go.
yeah, it was
The,
great though.
the most interesting thing I've found, because I got a gig sort of by surprise. They always come by surprise when you're like, so I'd literally been chilling out. Had the best tan ever. And the thing is, but my secret opinion is I'm not too much of a fan of comedy in summer in general.
Hmm.
That's the reason for the Edinburgh Festival, isn't it? Because it moves up to where it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
But I got a gig, and then I was like trying to work out the 20 minutes I was going to do, and I realised that this is all old shit now.
Hmm.
No one you had to change everything, because my sort of thing of anyway. So the other day I was in the thing I can't do now. Do you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And insert,
Yeah.
went on holiday. Oh no, I didn't, because you can't. So I had to go through the
Redundant.
whole set, and it took about 4 hours just to be like, does this vaguely make sense now?
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a 20 that is all right, because basically, and the only reason that is because there's a cafe down my literally 3 minutes away from me called the Artista Cafe, and they do new material nights on Tuesday and Wednesday, and he's still running because he wants to open, so
Yeah.
that's his source of money. So luckily, I know, obviously other people have but I can get somewhere once a week.
That's great, man. That's wonderful. I mean, I'm so jealous. Like, I mean, because you did my gig in Fisheries Wharf Cafe. It was great. Such a lovely
Really
gig.
nice gig.
And it was great. And so not long after that, you did that gig, we were opening one up in Abbas Langley, and then it was like great. We had the first gig with Steve Carlin closing. It's great, and then we're like, yeah, we'll have you back. And then the first lockdown happened, and I was like, oh, it was a theater room and everything. I was like, oh, amazing, like and like the older kind of crowd were in. The good guys that just they're just sort of like they weren't like not saying pass it, but weren't too old to be like, oh, this is no. It was just sort of like they were like just on like kind of like on the rebels of the age.
Still
like,
a bit cheeky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. So they were like perfect crowd, man. And they were like, yeah, we'll come. And there's people coming from Uxbridge to go there. It's like, we'll come and bring our friends next time. I was like, oh, and so that happened. First lockdown finished. Second lockdown wasn't on the cards, and then we're like, we're started up again. We had a night booked and everything, and it's like then the second lockdown took that all away. I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah, that's so irritating.
Oh man, but like, so that's so good, man. Is that the secret? Is that the downstairs little secret?
Yeah.
Oh,
The secret really nice. One. So, because I live near, sometimes I'll fill in for other people when there's dropouts. But he does a Tuesday and Wednesday new material night. Although, to be honest with you, God, new material. I've literally, so basically, when you stopped gigging, you were like, God, I miss gigging.
Mm-hmm.
I missed gigging a bit. I mean, some people, I'm watching some internet videos, and some people are making a real meal of it. It's like, dude, what? You weren't a person before. You can't literally do anything else. It is just bullshit. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I enjoy comedy, but I also enjoy ice cream. Just find something else that you like temporarily.
Yeah.
And actually, saying that, I have taken up football since this lockdown. I think everyone started exercising a bit more, man. I think literally, I always liked football. So early on in the lockdown, I went skateboarding.
Oh, okay. Were you skateboarded before?
Yeah. So I bought some more, and my skateboards. My girlfriend was like, "Why are you doing this? Because you're just going to hurt yourself." But she was like, "Have fun, but you may break your ankle." And I went for a bit, and I sort of reminded myself how much I sucked. I sucked originally, and now I'm 10 years older. So then I thought, oh, I'm actually, I used to enjoy football, so I've been playing that. I've been really enjoying it. And I've spoken to loads of people who've just started things that they never probably would have done before because of the lockdown. Obviously, I mean, there's 60,000 people dead, but I've taken up football winter, which is the most important thing.
I think so. You're making a change.
I'm making a change. But yeah, so I'll fill in for people at Artista. I'll do some new material. And that's what I was going to say. I missed gigging. I do not miss new material. New
Yeah,
material is still shit.
yeah.
I literally hate it. And you write down something that you're like, this is 100% gold.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll even like tell my girlfriend, she'll be like, that's great. And then you go there and then just nothing. You're just like, for fuck's sake, what the fuck has happened
I
here?
say this right. You know, when sometimes, well, at a new material night, you're just full of comedians. There's no real audience there, and you sometimes know in your heart of heart that this is fucking good, and then
Yeah,
they are totally wrong. And you know that when you go to a proper audience, it's like, look, I'm. Sometimes you feel I'm not even going to do this here because I know
yeah,
that this is going to work because it makes me laugh, and I know for a
yeah,
fact this works. You know,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
need your opinion. I know this bit's good, so fuck you.
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
and that's it. I
Hmm.
mean, you've got to have that. And I mean, this is bad and a
Uh.
sign of someone who is probably a narcissist. But I will look at an audience and do a bit and go, I do not believe that that did not work.
Yeah,
Like, as in, it does. You're wrong,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that is a bad thing to get into.
No, no, but yeah, but I mean, of course, you don't do that for the good gigs, but it's for the new materials. Like, I think you should think about this. I think you need to think about this again. That's what it is, isn't it? Right? You've not given this the correct amount
Yeah.
of justice and weigh this up too much. But no, like I get it in the new material stuff. Have you done the online gigs? What's your opinion of those?
Oh, mate, my opinion. Jesus Christ.
Go for it.
I think everyone just fucking stop it. Just stop it. Stop trying to recreate something. I mean, what's sad for me now, because obviously, we were delayed by 20 minutes because I couldn't get my headphones in. I'm not doing that 3 times a week. Do you know what I mean? I
Mm,
like a podcast also, so you've got all the audience, they're in a gallery. You need their feedback to get
mm,
anything close to what you would in live performance,
absolutely.
but they also want their husband to pass them the crisps.
Oh, come
So
on.
you're listening to people. Have you done many of them?
I did three of them, and I was like, at the very start of the lockdown, and I was like, okay, it was fine. You just got to motor through it like with huge energy, and like it doesn't even matter. And that's the problem is like as you say, there's no feedback, and at the end of it, it feels like I put myself in the audience's shoes. I'm sure it looks like a home video that they just managed to click on YouTube, and they've gone, what is this?
Yeah.
This is what why are we watching this? And
Who is
after
this
yeah,
guy?
after like 2 minutes of watching someone else's home video, you go, no, I'm not watching any more of this. And people get more concerned with the comments on the sidebar, going, oh, they start chatting to each other. They don't even acknowledge
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So it's
Oh, that's horrible. I didn't realize they could comment.
yeah, that one really
That's not
good.
safe as well, is it?
Mm,
Because people have proven several times. Do you want to hear my sort of crazy opinion on that?
go for it.
People have proven several times that they cannot be trusted in a comment section, to be nice. But also, the other thing is, I think, I mean, this is weirdly controversial, but I think ban the comment section.
I think so too. It's distracting, and it was usually irrelevant to whatever's happening in the screen.
I mean, ban them everywhere. I'm
Oh,
being
everywhere,
pretty
yeah.
militant. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
I
YouTube and all that.
reckon. I reckon one day there'll be like that sort of like I don't know, some kind of enough of this shit on the internet because it's not even good. It's probably even mentally damaging for the trolls because
Mm.
whilst they're on there fucking with everyone and saying that you've got a stupid chin or whatever it is they're saying, they're also taking time out of their own lives and losing time with their families.
Mm.
So eventually their wife will be like, well, he just sits on, this isn't a marriage, and
Mm.
he'll be like, I like telling people they suck. It's, uh,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing the online gigs. People can fuck off. I'm
Mm.
sorry.
Mm.
I will do podcasts.
Mm.
I love because it's a conversation.
Mm.
There is no physical way you could get me to do a set on a live show. Yeah,
It's like this when you see people doing the vodcast now, or like the video podcasts. In fairness, the video podcasts are I think 100 times worse than the actual gigs, because
yeah,
everyone is so forced and just like not being themselves. It's like, oh, we're always this fun and entertaining. Look at me being fun and entertaining. It's like, and then they're so aware that the camera's on, and that you can't get a real person like
yeah, yeah,
interaction,
yeah, yeah.
and it's just really frustrating. I'm like, I did 1 or 2 video podcasts. I was like, no, I don't like how this makes me feel. This all feels so forced. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just gonna do the normal podcast because it just feels a bit more connected, and I think it's better as an audio medium.
Which is why phone calls are better than video calls.
Hmm.
You know. I mean, you don't need to. You don't need the pic. I don't want to see. I actually think it would be quite interesting for people to hear this. And have you ever been like used to listen to what podcast was it? I think it was the Ellis James and John Robbins one.
Mm,
And I listened to it loads before I saw John Robbins. I think it
yeah.
was at a preview, and I was like, this is not the guy's voice that I've heard. Like, as in, I think I found it quite interesting to find out what that person actually looked like and
Mm.
do a bit of research. It's a great way to get people to Google you. Not that, I want to be sick in my mouth for even saying that, but unfortunately, it's the world. It's the world we live in. I
That's true.
just,
It's
yeah.
like the thing is though, I would like to know, Joe. Was it a letdown when you went to see the show? Was it like, oh, this isn't the person I built up in my head. This guy should have been taller and like more hench and like just more awesome.
Unfortunately, and luckily for John, he was actually more handsome
Oh
than I
wow,
thought.
fair play.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
That's
that's it.
great.
He was a nicer looking guy than he sounds.
It's a bit like when this is years ago now when Chris Moyles tried to make the venture from radio to TV. Do you ever see that show on telly?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it was awful, wasn't it? It was like,
yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
no, like comes across as like a big bullshit bully that just just was mean to the audience. Whereas on the
Yeah.
radio, it was great because we were like, oh, we don't have this sort of imposing presence that could potentially look like someone that would beat me up in the school playground and take my lunch money.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No,
But
I mean, he is one of those people from that you just go, "What's your appeal?" I just don't get. When you look at someone, you're just like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't listening to Radio One at the time.
mm,
Some people have an amazing ability of lasting, but when you're sort of like, how has this happened?
mm,
I mean, this is going to sound bad, but Stacey Dooley, what the
oh,
fuck is going
oh,
on? Like, she's pretty massive now.
mm,
And it's kind of like just getting. I just watch her documentaries and just think, when you're interviewing someone,
mm,
you're supposed to be like impartial because you've gone there knowing that they're a people trafficker. So them
mm,
being a people trafficker should not be. But she just gets really angry with, how could you do this? Da-da-da. But I think the key, like, well, and basically it's Louis Theroux for me.
mm,
But I just get really stressed out. And then there was the show that wasn't very good, and
mm,
then she was everywhere, and it's almost as if some people, the BBC just goes, no, she's good, no, she's good,
yeah,
no, she's good, no, she's
that's it.
good. Till gradually you end up going, all right,
Yeah,
and then you find yourself going, oh, I quite like Stacey Dooley. Do you know what I mean?
brainwashed.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it, man. It's like
It's like
drip
James
torture.
James Corden. Actually, no, that's not fair because he was good in Gavin and Stacey. But
Right. I say it's drip torture, isn't it? Really, they just like keep, no, okay, right, okay. Look, this, I'll say it. I'll say it. Joe, for you, right? You're from Brighton.
yeah,
When did you start comedy?
I've started comedy probably about 10 years ago,
Mm,
which is a thing I passed. I think it might even be more than that,
yeah.
But I was 21 and now I'm 31. So yeah, 10 years. But I was very lazy for the first 3 to 4 years,
Mm.
and then it's picked up. And now now everything's collapsed, but before that, it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a really long thing to start, but I can't ever see myself. I've been annoyed at various things that have happened. I remember once at the Edinburgh Festival, I had died on my arse, and I went out. There was a guy and his son were standing, who were in the audience, and the dad came up to him and was like, I don't know how you didn't just walk off. How did you not just walk off
Mm,
like that?
mm,
And what I was concentrating on wasn't the dad, it was the son who was looking up at me. And I was
mm,
like, I'm going to be like a fixture in your shared life.
yeah.
That terrible comedian that you both saw, like, oh,
Yeah.
on his deathbed, he'll be like, oh God, that comedian was shit. And the
But
son will be like, I know, Dad, and they'll cry.
oh,
But yeah, I mean, there's things like that, but I try not to let them creep in. Most of the time, it's good. Most
but
of the time, it's fine.
when was your first gig and what was the venue?
I did the Jill Edwards course
Oh yeah.
because I didn't really know. Everyone actually feels the need to justify a course if they've done it, don't they?
Mm,
Really, weirdly.
mm,
I did it because I didn't know anything about it, and I thought it
mm,
would probably be better to know something about it than. It didn't even, the concept of just booking a gig didn't even enter my mind. I was like, oh, I'll just do this, and this
mm.
will tell me about it, and then I'll have more information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of
So I
course.
did. So I did there, and then the next one after that, I think, was at a place called the Latest Bar in Brighton, which is terrible venue for comedy, but people keep trying. It's actually not that bad, but it's basically it's never packed. It was okay. I'm trying to remember my first death. That would be the really
Oh,
interesting
was
story.
okay, but was your first gig that went well then? Obviously, after the
Yeah,
scores.
yeah, yeah. So the first one, well, they do. That's, people are like, "Oh, you can't count it," but they do one at the Comedia at the end of the course, and then the Comedia is like really, really nice.
Mm.
So obviously, you do that, and then you're like, "This is how things are going to be from now on," sort of thing, and then it takes you 2 years to get back there.
Yeah,
But yeah. So I mean, have you done the Brighton Comedia
I have.
before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So it's just I think it might be the perfect comedy room.
It's lovely. Mm.
I definitely don't think I've been to one that's better, but I'm not. Yeah, if I've done one that's similar,
Mm.
the Glee Club in Cardiff,
Mm.
but that's kind of a wider room. What I
Mm.
like about the thing, the Comedia, is there's like a small room, and also I don't mind those black boxy rooms as well. But
Mm.
basically that was it. That was the first gig, and then I was like, yeah, I will definitely do this until I'm dead, and this is amazing, sort of thing. And then you get a big kick in the balls when you realise you've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's like, so how many gigs in do you think it was when you realized that you hadn't completed it yet?
I knew my second gig.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you go from the dizzy heights,
yeah,
and also because because you invite your friends, everyone just thinks you're like amazing,
yeah.
sort of thing. So you're getting a lot of kudos in your general social life, and you're
Mm.
like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. And then you go to like a real room, and it just is like, oh, actually, this is hard. And also the material as well. I think you realize when you're generally just sort of writing new things and going, actually, that's way better than what you're doing. Like if you watched a clip now, have you
Mm.
watched like one of your first
Oh,
clips?
yeah, I have. Yeah, I've got them on my hard drive, and they're just I just used to listen to all the audio stuff, and I hurt myself with that for about 5 days, and then listened to them all, and then I was like, right, I'm not recording anything again. I'm just gonna make a note because I just can't take that anymore. That's enough. But yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
got all those old clips of the joy that I had, the absolute sheer like bliss of being on stage anywhere, and I was like, I had a little suit jacket kind of thing going on. I was like, oh yeah, I'm loving this. This is great, and then like, oh my
yeah.
God. It was like, but in fairness, like looking back, the joy I had, it could not have touched me at this, that utter self-belief and joy and without and lack of cynicism, man. It was just
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
It was just so, I was just, I was talking to my wife about it. Like she's going, look at you there. Look how much hope you've got. Look at you
yeah.
now. You've got no hope. But that's what,
Yeah,
and I kind of envy my earlier self so much for like having all that hope and joy. And it's just, it's a shame that I've still got hope, but it's just like it's not the same. It's like, it's like a relationship. You kind of go,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
your first love, it just, and you're like however many loves you have. The last one is like you kind of go, I love you, but it's not as intense and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
just fresh as it was before. I mean, I love comedy and I love writing jokes and I have the joy of the whole thing, but it's that first thing, it's just, you're never going to beat that.
No, and that's it, and that's because you meet people as well who are doing the gigs with you, and like that new material one I go to on
Mm.
Tuesday where everyone's got 5 minutes,
Yeah,
and you meet people there that are like their first gig and they're really nervous, and
yeah,
I was like, I mean, like this is 12 people. I mean,
yeah.
you need to chill out. Um, but like it's really special when they have
Yeah,
their friends, and it's
yeah.
that's the thing. I like that. I don't quite, because obviously I've been around for so long now.
Mm.
What I really don't like is when you meet someone and they're like really sort of like, oh my god, rabbit in the headlights,
Mm.
and then they get really good, and then they get really jaded. I
Yeah,
really hate that.
yeah.
I've it's happened to about two or three people that I've known who are all now good, but I just, I always think, if I could have caught you on that first gig and gone, why don't you just do something that doesn't make you as
A
I don't
sad,
think
a sad.
I think yeah, I know it is a sad thing. I will come up with depressing truths, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think what's lucky for me I've always been pretty cynical about everything. I was cynical when I started, and like I will complain about things. I'll complain about gigs and getting to gigs and getting there. And you know, when you get to a gig and you're like, everything is fucked. The
Yeah.
chairs are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's all. I will do that internally or to someone that I know quite well. I won't generally do it to the promoter. You don't do that, do you? Sort of just pitch it and go, shall we move some chairs forward, maybe, or something?
Yeah.
But I will whinge. But the thing is, like, that's my natural personality, so I don't think I've become jaded, especially.
It's just maybe exaggerated that little part of you, well, that big, large part of you, with more, giving it more confidence, that cynicism. So, no, I'm definitely right. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember your first joke?
My first joke was I had one about. I think I had one. This is gonna be. I had one about cheesy chips.
All right.
I had one about going into a pub and asking for cheesy chips,
Hmm.
and then them saying we don't do cheesy chips, and then I said, "Do you have cheese?" And they said yes. And I said, "Do you have chips?" And they said yes. And then I can't remember that, but it was just some fucking
Yeah.
classic. Like it's literally
Yeah.
like I'm ashamed now. I actually have forgotten how it goes, but I think I've blanked it from my mind. But it's really weird because if people have been around for quite a long time, because obviously I've been gigging in Brighton for a while, so a
Hmm.
lot of people will. So it'll be like your birthday, and this is 10 years ago
Hmm.
now, right? And be like my birthday, and someone will go, "What are you doing for your birthday? Getting some cheesy chips?" And I'm like, it's nice, but I don't even remember that
Yeah.
now. Do you know what I mean? It can't have been that good.
Quoting jokes back to you is like, yeah, okay, thanks. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I blanked that. You know,
Sometimes I'll just answer it honestly as well because I've completely. Oh no, we're going to thingy. Because it's just like
yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's such a
But
reach. It's such a reach back into the recesses of your mind. You're like, oh man, honestly, I'm way past that now. And like, you've got some really imaginative material. Like, I like the Mugabe bit. You still doing that bit?
I'm still doing that. Well, actually, yeah. So I'm still doing that bit. I think I got a message from what keeps me going during
Mm.
this. I think this is going to be a great fucking time check piece of history. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean? This podcast because we're in it. We're in the thick of it, man. There's a
Man,
pandemic,
yeah, in
and
the
it's getting
trenches.
worse. Exactly. So basically, you're a comedian, and then all your gigs dry up, and
Mm.
then every now and again something happens. So Top Secret is going to use that clip, and they're going to post it the other day, and it was just a nice thing to get just an email saying we've done some clips of you. Let us know the timestamps of the bit that you want us to put up, and then going back and then being like, yeah, we'll use that. And that's like you sort of get the email and you're like, I am a comedian. I've forgotten
Mm.
about my whole other life. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Just it's just quite nice. I'm doing the Robert Mugabe bit. I originally came up with that in the bath and then at the pub. I was doing it when I walked to the pub, but it's great. I mean, Robert Mugabe fits into pretty much every song.
It's great. It's lovely. I mean, do you play music as well?
No, I will only. Everything is about the least amount of effort. Everything. So I'll do a bit of singing. I don't, I've got a voice that you can hear and know what the song is that I'm supposed to be doing, sort of thing.
Mm.
Not especially a singer kind of guy, but also I want fans, playing. It's just something to carry, and I
Mm.
just can't. I just can't commit to that, unfortunately. But yeah, never been musically talented, really. But do love a bit. Do love a bit of sing. Someone, another comedian, was saying, "Stop putting singing and everything." But I was like the other day, and I was like, I do have singy bits now.
Mm.
But I think it's quite good. I think if you can do it to a decent level, then you can. It kind of shocks people. I won't go into. Don't want to ruin it for you, Winter.
Mm.
But
No,
I've
of
got a
course.
pretty killer joke about Warhorse at the moment,
Okay.
and that's got some singing in it. So look out for that.
Do you think Joe Foster is going to do a musical in the next maybe couple of years when the pandemic's finished?
If I no, so basically, in every situation, like today, for example,
Mm.
I need a grown up. So I don't want to just wander into something. But if someone I knew was into that, I would be open to doing it. But I think it would be the weirdest thing
Mm.
ever.
Right.
I can't imagine it. Although you saying that has made me like I think I'd be more of a who what was Elton John, because he
Mm.
gets does he get the melody and then write the lyrics?
I have
I
no
think I
idea,
could
mate.
do that.
Oh yeah.
I
Okay. All right.
if this is me being totally bold because I've never even thought about this,
Yeah.
but if someone gave me a song and was like, "This has to be about chips," I'd be like, "All right, I'll give this a crack."
I love the pull is we're back to chips again. That's it. And cheese. If we have chips and cheese, there we go. And so like you won the Foster's 2015 South Coast Comedian of the Year award.
I did.
Joe Foster won the Foster's winner of the South Coast Comedian of the Year. Was there any influence there?
There's a lot of conspiracy theories
Yeah.
about that. All I would say to people that thought that that was a conspiracy is, look at my gig list. I'm not profiteering off this that much. So yeah, I mean, it was good. That was good. And I got a little piece in the newspaper or whatever. And it's fine. Got a couple of gigs off it. I'm not going to be too. I'm actually doing a gig for James, who runs that next week, I think, in Petersfield, because I had a really tough new material night the other night, and I was like, I could probably squeeze in another gig before Christmas. And when sort of gradually it sinks in, you're like, fuck, I've got a Christmas gig in Portsmouth. Because people sell it to you. I think I'm replacing someone else, and people call you up and sell it to you as if like, hey, I've got a gig for you, and then you don't put everything together until you've stopped talking to them on the phone, and you're like, oh, actually, I've just signed myself up for something that could potentially be really irritating. But hey, that's show business.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much.
but that competition was fun. I quite like Portsmouth because there is a real sense that any fucking thing could happen. A man approached me from behind the stage to either hit me or hug me once when I was there. The compere had to run on and show him back to his seat. Okay. But yeah. Rowdy.
I like playing in Plymouth as well. Plymouth is like sort of like, it feels more earthy down that direction. More stuff kind of goes, It's like, and Portsmouth the same, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. If you just look at the average person on the street in Portsmouth, they are probably about 10 times scarier than the average person on the streets in Brighton. So a great sense of humour, but extraordinarily terrifying. I would be interested to, because they've got uni, haven't they? So I would love to know how those two worlds meet. I suppose I could talk to Sunjay Arif or something about what it was like. But yeah. I mean, there's certain places, I think. It seems to be provincial. I mean, that wouldn't probably be fair, but places like Worthing or something like that are always quite interesting as well. I don't know why that is. Rowdier. There's a really weirdly rowdy gig in a little tiny village called Arundel that's got a castle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've done that a few times. It's an old jail, isn't it? The old jailhouse.
Yeah.
That's a very and the audience think they're funnier all the time than the comedian. You have to really, it's like crowd control at the beginning, and you're like, okay, look, let's just settle into this. There are jokes, It's a very interesting gig, that one.
And it is like the fucking sea, because I was closing there before whatever, and they heckled every single act. And then I came on to headline, and I was not getting heckled. And that's a really weird feeling to be annoyed about. You're like, well, you've heckled everyone else. Let's do this, come on. Because I'd rather I don't like a late on heckle. I'd rather we all establish that we're going to have a bit of back and forth early on.
Yeah.
Because then I'll be in the mood for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they were just silent. And then at some point, somebody said something. So I turned around and I was like, all right, guys. And they were like, no, yeah, sorry, carry on. And I was like, you've all been dicks all night. I don't get what is happening here. But yeah, I do love those ones, especially when it's like you go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the best way to make money out of comedy. Totally. I've discovered. You set up a little place and everyone comes out and it's their big night out, and you usually put on a curry or something like that, and they're so pleased to see you. It's quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, but why did you start in the beginning? Like, why did you start comedy in the beginning?
So basically, I thought that I was funny, narcissism, but I thought I was funny. Then my sister would be like, "Oh no, you can only really do it in conversation. You're just funny in conversation." In my head, I was kind of like, right, this is something that I want to try.
Yeah.
And then basically, I tell you what happened is, this is going to sound horrendous, but all of the people that I was hanging out with, obviously I was 21, so it was the 21, 22, 23 area of your life. I hadn't gone to university because I didn't have any qualification. And I was hanging around with people that's not Friday nights out started dragging into the next day sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you would go home at, I would go home at 4 and say good night, see you later, and then they would be up until possibly a weekend.
Mm.
And I was a bit like, I'm not really feeling this
Mm.
vibe, but I didn't really have any other. I had sort of some sensible friends, and I just really wanted to get out of that situation. So I
Fair.
thought, if you give yourself something to do on the weekend
Yeah.
that you like doing, then you will have a reason to leave, basically.
No, for sure.
So comedy was my reason to leave. So then I started the course, and then what was really interesting is I met people that I like, I'm best mates with until today. And the comedy that my girlfriend has, because obviously she's, your partner has to have some kind of connection to this occasionally. I could tell that there was a fucking pandemic on when I got booked for a gig. So Stephen Grant's running all these fucking mad gigs in like pub gardens or something.
Mm.
And I got a phone call. I was in Aldi, and he was like, "Can you do this gig on Friday?" And it always is like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it. I can do it." And then I knew that it was a pandemic when I went home, and I said, "Oh, I've got a gig on Friday." And my girlfriend was like, "I'll come." And I was just
Yeah.
like, "You do not give a fuck about this." But she comedy has now become interesting. It's like in vogue again in her mind. But yeah, so she's always said comedy people are the best people. They're the nicest people. They're the friendliest people. But yeah, when I started out, it was an excuse to go home, which is odd now because it keeps me out of the house loads.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you're just exchanging one lack of sleep hobby for another, really, isn't it?
Exactly, but my mental health is much more sound with comedy, which actually is a really crazy thing to say.
God. No, I
But
know.
I
Yeah, there's limits, isn't there, to everyone's mental strength and stamina.
Yeah, and I still then lived the rest of my 20s hammering it, but
Yeah.
just not in that way.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, it was. I think it was one of the best things that happened to me, really.
And so you said you're furloughed. What are you furloughed from?
So I work basically. Luckily, I have sort of worked in the periphery area of international schools, language schools for the last 4 years,
Oh,
which is a fun job to do during the day. And I like working with teenagers, and they're all really. I mean, they're pretty weird. So
huh.
they're from all over the world. So you obviously meet people from different cultures, and they behave in ways that you're like, this is absolutely insane. But
Yeah.
it's like a really interesting job. So that's what I'm doing now because I'm pretty amazed by people who can make a full-time living from comedy. I mean, those people can't now.
Hmm.
It's pretty much gone for the moment. But I think when it kicks back up, it will be kicked back up in a big way.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually an optimistic person. I think we won't be able to do enough gigs
Yeah.
in about a year. This is a small hiccup.
Hmm.
I'm gonna love listening to this in a year. Um, so that's what I do during the day. But I'm quite glad I had that because I said this the other day. I was like, imagine if in January I'd said I'm going full time as a comedian. You'd quit your job, pandemic, unemployment.
Yeah,
I'd be
like
fucked.
that's the thing. One thing is it's such a precarious career, and people just go full bore at it. I get it. It's like the Tony Robbins style. Yeah. Oh, burn your boats. Look, you kind of need a boat. You kind of need a couple of boats. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
you can't just constantly rely on this.
yeah, yeah,
Someone emailing you. Oh, you need this gig. How much is that for? 50 quid. That's not going to pay my rent. That's not
yeah.
even going to pay
Yeah.
my electricity bill or my food bill. It's like,
Plus, it's usually 50 quid in a weird period, like 5 weeks.
yeah,
So money will come in at random times. Then you get the really weird ones where I had someone hold on to 90. I went to take, I think about, I don't know, 90 quid or something out of someone's hand, and they held on to it's hard to get money off people, and
uh,
people will not pay you if they can.
yeah,
Like, think of all the gigs that where there's in a small place, they're charging 20 quid a ticket and
yeah,
they're paying acts nothing.
yeah,
Those people are stealing money, basically.
yeah,
And they will try and not pay you. And
yeah.
also, I've met a lot of people doing this who have said to me, "Oh yeah, no, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do this full time?" Be like, "Oh, how do you do that? Because you live in London." And you're looking at the person and you're looking at their full-time comedian, and it doesn't really add up. And you're like, "Oh, you're rich.
Yeah,
You're really rich
and
secretly."
you're living with your parents, or you have an
Yeah.
incredibly rich spouse. That's what it is.
Mm.
That's why you can do it.
I'm not bitter, but I am sounding like I am. But it would probably be my dream to wake up every morning and be like, what should I do relating to comedy today?
Oh.
But it's for some of us, we have rent and bills. So
And so you're I mean, this goes back to your whole, I guess, theme of your life, Joe. It's like your show was called Let's Get Cynical. You did that in 2018, right?
did that in 2018. Then now I've got the new one, which is Joe Foster Hits the Roof.
Right.
And that is, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it at the Brighton Fringe. I'm going to do a couple of previews. I'm going to go to Edinburgh, but it's a half run. I'll do a half run at Edinburgh and go, but I want to save up enough money so you can pay for the actual PR. Because when I did, that's the thing that I really regretted. Although, to be honest with you, I was speaking to some people who were telling me about stories where their PRs that they paid thousands of pounds for were turning up and going, so if you put it on Twitter, and you're like, you're fucking hell, mate.
Yeah.
So I want to do my research and get a good PR. Go to the Edinburgh Festival and do a couple of weeks. I actually fucking really enjoy the Edinburgh Festival. My girlfriend said to me, she was like, "Oh, I'm not worried about your mental stability about the Edinburgh Festival. I just think you'll get really bored," and that is exactly what happened. I wasn't like. People have breakdowns, and I had some horrific shows. What it taught me is people should never give up, really, because if you do a bad gig, like say for instance, I did that bloody new material one the other day, and it didn't go great, and it was like a load of. I started doing some new material that I know works at the end to try and get them back, and that didn't work, and I was like, oh fuck this. Yeah. Because I haven't done another gig since then, I've been dwelling on that for about a day and a half. Whereas if you're at the Edinburgh Festival and you die at 11:30, you've got another gig at 2 and another gig at 5 and then another gig at 9. By the end of the day, you're usually pretty much 3 good ones and 1 bad one. So if everyone had I think it's important to just look at that and be like, yeah, I sucked, but I might not suck tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a numbers game, isn't it? Your show, Let's Get Cynical, right? And then was that the gig that you had the father and son at?
So no, that was a show that I did at the Edinburgh Fringe before, which was a 2-hander called Jam Comedy with Mike Cox. Do you know Mike?
Mike, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike and I are lovers. Yeah, he started about the same time as me, and we've done 2 shows in Edinburgh together. Initially did one with another guy called Adam Race, who now is sort of a London business dickhead. No, I'm joking. Yeah. He stopped comedy. He won something. There was something called the Chortle Award in Brighton, and decided comedy wasn't for him after performing at the Dome when I was in the final. But I'm not bitter about it. So me and Mike and Adam did the first show. Then I did a show with Mike the next year, or a couple of years later, and basically we never had an argument once.
Yeah, really.
For the whole run.
Really?
Never had an argument. No, we just get on really well, and he's pretty chilled. I'm pretty chilled. I mean, don't get me wrong. That gig I was telling you about where I died on my ass for about 30 minutes, and then Mike, I could tell, had a glint in his eye.
Yeah.
When you're watching like a really good friend die, and it can be like really funny. So he was laughing at me, and I could see as I swapped out, and I was like, "Welcome to the stage, Mike Cox," and he could see I was walking off, and I was like, "Oh man, I've just fucked that." But I could see a glint in his eye, like. I'm going to turn this bloody thing around. And then I just watched him die for 30 minutes. It was just so funny. But yeah, those situations, man. We've done some horrific. We did a gig in a hotel once, and it was like it was one of those corporate ones that pays you a lot of money. But I didn't get that the balance of that money would be that no one wants to see you, and the organisers have usually just booked. And then it's like over planning, isn't it? And then we'll have some comedians, and then, then the karaoke will start, and then, we'll do some orienteering sort of thing. So I went on and tried to do my set, and they didn't give a shit. I mean, it was pretty bad. It wasn't at a woman said on my way out, I heard a woman, I think she actually said it to me. She said, "That was awful." Just a real point blank, you suck, which I thought was funny. And then I went and stood behind. I said to Mike, I was like, "Look, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to leave because I've got to get out of here. That was horrible." So I went outside the hotel and stood behind a pillar. and heard a Scottish man leaving with his wife after the show, and he was like, "They might think it's new comedy, but actually it's just shite."
Oh.
Like that, and I was just like, "Oh!" But yeah, we've done some horrendous gigs. Most of them go good. I really do need to stipulate that.
This hotel gig, it was for a specific company.
Yeah, there was some guy, one of those ones you can't really remember it, but you just remember people saying money, and you going, "Yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
of
of
course.
course,
Yeah,
I like money."
yeah. I've done this for like 3 years. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
smashing this. It's
That's literally it.
oh mate, like I had a corporate gig in Eastbourne. This is like 6 years ago now, and
Respawn it already.
like I'm where Eddie Izzard is from, so that was it. I was like, oh come on, and they're not ready for me yet. And so I went down there and like I had to do a recce of this uh, printing company that basically wanted to get me down and just get some like information on all of the people, so I could basically roast everyone in the
That's a good idea.
company,
What a plan.
and that
That's a great plan.
and that was fine. But like I had about maybe 10 minutes of stuff because they gave me just like, oh, this guy's just a bit of a bellend, and this guy, oh, you gotta, he's just like, he likes sandwiches, and it was just like, oh, there's not really much to go on here. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
at that stage as well, I wasn't that much of a skilled joke writer at all, So I was
No.
like, okay, so now I was just like, right, I can't really pick much out of this. Did 10 minutes of that stuff about them, and that was going great. And then I was like, okay, I said out loud, that's enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Oh no. And then
And then
they
it
went,
tanked from then on, man. Honestly,
oh,
I got paid for like a half an hour set, like and it was in the room. As you talk about the room, right? It wasn't a room. Do you know the Grand Hotel in Eastbourne?
yes.
Okay, you know that if you go upstairs, they have like not a lobby, but like a sort of in between landing bit with a large staircase
Yeah, yeah, okay.
section, if you
I
like.
can imagine.
I am standing at the side of the staircase, and everyone's like basically surrounded me,
Oh
and so
no.
it was like you're trying to heckle people, and like so you're basically like roasting people, but you don't know where exactly they are. So you could, like, it's better when you're roasting someone head on rather
Yeah,
than
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
people flanking you from either side. You know what I mean? So oh man, I know how you feel, man. Some of these hotel gigs are just not set up for comedy at all, and
No.
they had a separate room. They could have done it in a separate room, but no, they had to have it in the weird space to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
yeah.
like
Just
anyway.
so it was ruined for
Yeah,
everyone.
just so there was no energy, built up at all, so you could like not riff on anything. Anyway, but it was funny. It was just, it was a story. Is it for a paper company? But in Eastbourne, it was for.
God, that a paper company. Wow,
Yeah,
it's got that story is like the most British story I've ever heard in my life. I was doing a gig in the Eastbourne Grand. Is it the Eastbourne Grand in a hallway for a paper company?
yeah.
That's like so savage. Did you get paid good money though?
It was not bad at all. That was really good
Sweet.
fun. That was great fun. It was. In fairness, it wasn't the worst. That is definitely not the worst gig I've ever done. But
All my bad ones are sort of blending in now.
mm,
So I can't really remember specific instances. But I
mm,
tell you what I find amazing. Some people have the uncanny ability to die on their ass and then stay in the building. I've just got to get
yeah,
out, mate. I'm done. I'm out.
yeah.
If I fuck it, I'm leaving. The amount of people that just hang around after it's you realise you just stank out this room, and now you're like, probably going to grab a pint, actually.
Oh,
I'd be gone.
that's the lack of self-awareness that we all hope to attain in later years.
Eastbourne is a really weird place. I was doing a gig in Eastbourne, and a girl, like, it was after the gig. It was actually, she'd not gone to the gig and then turned up afterwards because she was at the bingo. And she was doing that thing that cunts do, let's face it, where she was doing so to this lovely man who I can't remember his name, she was doing the whole tell me a joke thing.
Uh,
And I was watching her fucking with him, and he was sort of trying to half play along, and then da 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 da. And then she was like, "What about you? Are you a comedian?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Tell me a joke." And I was like, "No, because I'm not going to play this game. I don't have to. I don't
mm,
care about your opinion." She was like, "What do you mean?" And I think that's that was an early glimpse. I think that was about 4 years ago. I think that was an early glimpse to the entitlement that is now so prevalent everywhere.
mm.
Because she just could not get her head around the fact that I did not give a fuck about the opinion of someone who'd just come from bingo,
Yeah,
who knew nothing about comedy.
yeah.
I wasn't even doing the gig. I was like, you'll have to wait till the gig. She was like, well, I'm not going to come to the gig. I was like, well, then I think we're both fine. I mean, we're both fine, aren't we? It did get to a stage where it's like, what do I'm not going to do it. But yeah, I will point blank just refuse to have that conversation with people
Yeah.
and just say, I really don't care.
I,
Because the only thing that matters is that you're good on stage.
mm,
That's why I think TV's so hard, because you have to be funny in a sort of interview
mm,
scenario, and you have to have like banging stories ready.
mm.
I think it would be really difficult because have you ever done one of those? When people do, yeah, these are my worst nightmare. I hate these things.
Mm,
When people do like a game show, but because they're not known,
mm.
they do it in a venue. And they're like the
Yes.
host. And
Yeah.
usually what it is it's just a vehicle for the host to write horrible things that will trip up people,
Mm,
and they look amazing. So
mm.
I don't do them anymore. I find those things really difficult. Podcasts, however, I love because I can just sort of slag people off.
You know who you are, the people who do those game show things, right?
Yeah.
How many shows have you done then? You've taken two up with Mike Cox and you've done
So I've
Let's Get
taken two
Cynical.
up with Mike Cox. I've done Let's Get Cynical. I've done like other things. I've done the Brighton Fringe every year. I did Camden Fringe one year. I always found Leicester quite difficult to book, but I'd like to go to Leicester.
Mm,
Haven't done that yet. There's so many things I haven't done. This is the new show. And I think I was supposed to do this show in May, but it didn't happen for obvious reasons. Now, I'm not glad about the pandemic, but I think that show now is going to be way better than it was. I might have forced myself to do, to put something together, but I'm much I'm much more happy that I've got so much stuff now, and you can kind of this is I think quite a unique opportunity because everyone's so go go go. The pandemic's been like actually chill out for a bit, focus on your material. I've really enjoyed writing new material, especially new material about the pandemic. I've not got too much, but it's quite a good challenge because
mm,
everyone's making jokes about it. So if you've got a good joke about it, that's pretty awesome
mm.
because it's literally the only thing that everyone's talking about right now. But yes, that was the new show. I like the show Let's Get Cynical. I'm not 100% that I could remember it all. Now, I'm going to get someone to bloody direct this next one.
Mm.
I'm going to go proper.
Oh yeah.
Because I've got a friend who, you have all these comedian friends and you never like, so someone, say for instance, like Phil Gerard. Do you know Phil Gerard?
Name rings a bell.
So basically, he is like really good at just looking at material and going, "Have you thought about doing this?"
Mm,
So I'll meet him in the pub. I never help him with his material
mm.
because his material's fine.
Yeah.
But I will meet him in the pub and be like, "Can you listen to this recording?" And he will listen to it and come back to me and go, this, and this you need to change. And it
That's
just
great.
makes it so much better
That's
if
great.
you have a friend that can do that. So I'm
Oh
going to
god, yeah. You need someone
throw
like that.
everything at it, this one, and I think it's going to be super fun.
I mean, it's really important to have someone that's like, I mean, I guess that more experienced than you, is he?
So he actually started after me, but he's signed to Curb. He's done loads of things. He's
Mm,
got basically he writes in. So I would say that he writes in. If you're talking about music, I'm
mm,
using a music analogy that's going to be extremely cunty. Um, I write in beats. He writes in bars. So
right.
he will be able to write a whole thing, and he'll write what he'll do. Is he'll write it out, and he'll read it off the piece of paper, but it will be a page, and that
Mm,
will be one topic, sort of thing. It's actually
okay.
pretty crazy.
I know what you're
Whereas
saying.
I will write in one. Is that
Chunk,
funny?
a
Yeah,
chunk
yeah, yeah.
sort of thing. I know what you're saying. He'll pick it apart, like take bites off it, walk around, take another bite off it, and then put it
Yeah.
in the order. But okay, so with that, how do you like do you with joke writing and stuff? Do you do like 7 jokes? I know that Julian Dean does 7 jokes a day. How do you like? Do you go like, okay, right, I'm going to focus on this one bit today, and then once I've done that bit, I leave it. Or how do you do it?
Do you know what was quite interesting that I was thinking about today is so you know how we were all trying to do 6 gigs a week, and if you don't
Mm,
do that, then you're cast into hell and
yeah,
you deserve to
yeah,
die
yeah.
and you'll never be successful
Mm,
and everyone hates you.
mm,
I'm not entirely convinced. Basically, this pandemic, every time I've had a gig, because they're so few and far between, number one, I'm excited about them.
mm,
Number two, I've got loads of things I want to try because I've been like, oh, that's quite funny, or
mm,
maybe I could do something with that. So I don't know. Whereas when you were doing, so say for instance, I'll do the new material gig every week, then I'll probably in peacetime, I'm going to say, because that's the phrase that's going around. You'd probably
mm,
do one or two others, maybe three if I'm really busy. But you will be so rushed. Your life is so rushed because unfortunately, you have a day job and other things, and you're supposed to be doing and maintaining a relationship
Yeah.
and all the other things,
Hmm.
that you will get to those gigs and be like, oh, just do the same fucking thing.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. Whereas if you have the time and you've spent time at home, you've met up with friends, you'll have more ideas. Those ideas will probably take longer to make good.
No,
I don't know whether this is true, but that
I know
was
what you're
just something I
saying.
was thinking.
You
Yeah,
need a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit of separation from the comedy to make it good. As a bit of thought space
Yeah.
to just compartmentalize that because of that creative area. Otherwise, you're just jaded and burnt out and just you're at the coal face, if you like. I know that is such a bad analogy for comedy. I really think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a coal face. It's
yeah.
just a
Yeah,
little bit difficult to sit down and start writing the jokes. A coal face, come on. It's just your mental health. You're just trying to keep buoyant and fun in that moment. But because it's hard in trying to keep your mental, yourself, your mental stability and buoyancy. Seagull, and so that's the only hard thing. It's not a coal face. Come on, you're not shoveling tons of coal a day. It's
yeah.
if it
It's a sort
were,
of social paranoia face.
yeah,
Um,
it's like, oh, this joke could be potentially embarrassing if I don't put enough effort into it, and that's the only fear, really, isn't it? I could end up
yeah.
looking a little bit crap.
Yeah. So basically, I know, for example, I've had a year to do this show. I think I have a strong 20 a week 30 at this point. I'm not doing it till May, so I'm
Hmm.
not really that fast. I know for a fact if I had 50 solid minutes, you'd still be like, shit, this is going to suck, and
Hmm.
write some more. If you thought you were done, you're never done. So
Exactly.
it all keeps changing.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get to that moment where it's like totally
Hmm.
content. I think maybe some points of the Edinburgh Festival, I was like, "Oh, this show's pretty done now."
Hmm.
But then something that would happen like a couple of days later and be like, "Oh, that's actually really funny. I've never thought
Hmm.
about that," which is actually really annoying because when you think about it, you're striving for something that you never actually will achieve.
Yeah.
But then,
Hmm.
I mean, what else are you doing?
That
So,
exactly. You're just living. You're living for you rather than living for someone else, isn't it? It's like
yeah,
this is for me. This is I choose to do this. It's like okay, here we go. Matrix analogy because I choose to, Mr. Anderson.
yeah, exactly.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
And
Smith.
did you find it weird being normal life is shit?
Uh huh.
When this all started and my boss came up to me and was like, you're gonna have to leave work, and I was like, okay,
Mm.
and she was like, you're gonna have to leave work and not come back, we're sending you all home, sort of thing. And I was like, okay. So I got home and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So I kind of just sort of like started drinking, obviously.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got back to work, I was going to work and then coming home, and there's no gigs, and I was going to work and coming home, going to work and coming home, and I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever been so fucking bored in my life.
Yeah.
And people, like, I will talk to people who will be like, there's a guy that I work with who's the IT guy,
Mm.
and he is so content. But he's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, couldn't imagine going there on a weeknight. Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I just can't do it, man.
Mate.
Got to
And
be out there.
I feel, yeah, exactly. I feel like life is kinetic, and I need a bit of momentum to keep me, like, kind of the joy to spread that in my life. If you know what I mean, it's like, otherwise just sitting there staring at like Netflix all the time, going, "What am I going to choose
Yeah,
today?" It's like, oh my god,
God.
is that sad? Oh, I've actually nearly completed the list that all the comedians gave me to watch. This is, this is a lose lose here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
And there is nothing. I mean, there's like some. I've really gotten into the Crown. That's
oh
pandemic for
dear,
you, right
oh my
there.
god.
I know. Yeah, literally. I'm really enjoying it.
My do you know what, I will say this, I've dipped in and out of it because my wife and daughter love it, and like they love it, but Gillian Anderson, I think everyone's bagging on her about Margaret Thatcher. I thought she did great, to be honest.
Yeah, I watched. So I'm not up to that bit yet, but I
Okay.
watched her recently in that one where Jamie Dornan's the serial killer. I can't
Oh,
remember
The
what it's called. The
Fall,
full.
that's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right. But she started to really do my head in.
I
So I'm
know.
quite glad I've not come up to her yet because it was kind of like a little bit like, oh, I'm a bit full, Gillian, of this shit. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Um,
her voice as well. Her vocal cords sound absolutely hammered, don't they?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh, like,
yeah.
what's
And
happened?
I think the Thatcher one's quite hard to get right.
Yeah.
Did you see that Meryl Streep film?
No, I didn't see that one. The Iron Lady I
So
didn't see.
yeah. So that's all right, but it was really funny. I think they interviewed her family, and I can't, I'm paraphrasing, but I think they basically said, "Oh, she's actually much more of a bitch." Sort of
Oh.
thing. Yeah, they said the Meryl Streep one was a bit too soft, and the Meryl Streep one is hard as fucking
Oh.
nails. So
Wow.
like literally, the
Oh.
woman, formidable woman. Not that that sounds like a compliment, but that's not what I'm doing. But
Just in case.
just to assure the lefty liberal fucking twats.
So you're
I
Brighton. You're
literally,
Brighton. You'll be burnt out. You'll be like there'll be pitchforks and torches at your door.
I think I'm a bit of a sort of oxymoron for Brighton. I always say to my girlfriend, it's like, I don't like culture, but I like having it around,
Mm.
sort of thing. Where I love it here, and I love that people can wear silly hats
Uh-huh.
and, do whatever they want to do. But like sometimes you do get into situations where you're like, I mean, could we not just do something normally for once?
Yeah.
Like the Brighton Fringe, for example.
Yeah.
The Brighton Fringe is great, but I wish they sort of had a hard-nosed business person running it to a certain extent. I mean, all of those fringes are the same to a certain extent, I think. I think there could be a lot more because say for instance this is going to be bad. I'm going to have to burn some bridges now. But the website's shit. I don't think it's hard. I don't think it's too harsh to say the website's shit. You can't buy tickets. Someone. So they did a little fringe that they didn't promote during the pandemic. That was actually really good though. Thank you to the Brighton Fringe because I've got like some material out of it and it was nice to do a longer set and blah 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 whatever. But I had someone give up because they couldn't buy tickets. I said, "Can you do this? Why don't you reserve it?" Then the other venue, I was like, "Can you put tickets by for someone?" The woman was like, "Oh, we can't do it, but they can buy it through our website." He just gave up. He just didn't come.
Oh.
And imagine the amount of people that are like, "Oh, the Brighton Fringe, we never go and see anything. Let's book something."
Make it easy.
And the website's shit.
Oh.
I mean, I can buy. How hard is it to buy something online? Everyone does it thousands of times a week, but they can't get that right. I've got several problems.
Apart from the Brighton Fringe, because you issue down, which is online, isn't it? It's pervasive. It's everywhere then, really, because people can't buy tickets anywhere they are. Do you have you ever kind of gone, well, you know what, right? I'm in Brighton. Let's try and wear a weird hat just to see how it makes me feel. Because you could do anything really, just as a social experiment for yourself, there, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is it. Well, that is how I became Pan. No, but
new show.
No, the problem is with it is like I think I've worn pretty much similar clothes throughout the whole of my 20s. I don't have the body shape to pull off leather jeans. Let's put it like that.
Right.
I think if you're doing it, and I see loads of people who look great on the street, and they in faux fur or dressed like Father Christmas in July or something fucking nuts. And I think, good on you, but I just can't
subscribe to any of that.
No, well, I've got my other main thing is I'm just too busy. I'm too but we've all got friends, haven't we, that will try different those like sort of chameleon friends that go with every single trend. I've got too much on, man. I've got, although not really anymore. I was literally just about to say the sentence, I've got to go to Petersfield in 4 days. There is no comedy left. But yeah, I'm busy. I can't be asked for that shit.
All right.
But
so,
good luck to them.
As a comedian, like everyone talks about, I gave that awful attempt at analogy with a coal face, right? And you're not a miner. Right, we're not minors, but as a comedian, what would you see yourself as? Like that kind of a trade or a job? Like I like to ask this. It's a hard question to kind of like pigeonhole yourself into this thing that you imagine yourself as a model of a being. It can be any job. It could be an animal. But what do you see yourself as a comedian in that? Is it hard? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so.
So if like so what do you picture yourself as when you go on stage? Like if you're an animal or you're like a worker of some kind, that's easier.
Yeah. So I will. Can I have some examples of things that other people have said,
right.
or do you think that will tar me with?
No, of course, no. That's fine. Look, you don't have to. You can be whoever you want to be. There's no winning this. It's just you just say what you think you are. It's like Sean Mio, for example, is one example I always give. Sees himself as a gun for hire. A gunslinger, however you feel.
I see myself as an emergency heating engineer.
Okay, come to service the boiler.
Because people, if you don't turn up to a gig, have you ever been one of those ones where you haven't? I was with a comedian and they got lost on the motorway and kept on making the wrong turning. And I was supposed to be emceeing, and I rang up the woman who was running the gig, and I was like, "Look, we're not going to be here. You've got to get someone else there." Luckily, Dinesh Nathan was there, so I was like, "Just get him to do it." And she was like, understandably, really fucked off. And I was like, I know this is bad, but this is the situation. We're just going to have to roll with it. What I think is funny about comedy, it might not be the most interesting answer you've had. These disorganized people are essential. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're going to put this, if you don't turn up, they're fucked.
Yeah, totally.
So I just find that a really interesting. It's nice to know. You know, a lot of promoters do not check. I will talk to someone about a gig in May, for example, in about 2 days' time, and they will just trust me to show up.
Yeah.
But also, the other thing that's an analogy is we do bring the warmth, Winter. Oh, look at this.
Bring the heat. The heat.
Bring the heat, baby.
It's like now we're like talking like in NBA terms. I mean, here we go.
Yeah. I don't think it's the most glamorous option that you're going to get, but I think it's like pretty true, because it is. I do find it amazing, and quite an amazing thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Just to get a situation and be like, oh, I can deal with this, and then just talk at people, and they really enjoy themselves.
I'm gonna continue that analogy any further. I think it's good.
Yeah, that's it, man.
You brought the heat, mate. I like that. Everyone needs hot water in their life, right? Everyone needs.
Everyone does. And there was a girl I met. There was a girl I met on the beach who I didn't like, and she didn't like me this summer. And she said that I looked. One of her insults was she said I looked like I worked at British Gas. So now that's echoing through my life, clearly, because I'm bringing up gas engineers.
You know, I mean, in fairness, right? An essential. You're a key worker, an essential worker for these times.
I'm essential, mate.
Mate, that's it. Joe Foster, the essential worker, aka the gas.
Who brings the heat?
Brings the heat. Bringing the. That should be on a poster soon. Brings the heat. What else is a plan for the next year? Just hone this show. The Joe Foster hits the roof.
I'm going to make it good. I'm going to drop into some other place. I might do a smaller festival. But is there a rule about that? Taking it to other festivals, you can't be eligible for something, can you? Not that I'm, in line for the award, but I would like to know the regulations. I'll Google it. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is. But it's like it's only if you like you do a small preview. But I think the trick around is to do a different name.
Yes. That's good. So Joe Faustino will be doing lots of smaller festivals.
Yeah, that's it.
So basically, so do that, make the show good, and just sort of work out what the fuck is going on. I mean, I suppose none of us can really make any plans. I've got an Airbnb in Tenerife in August, but it's probably not going to happen. Oh. Keep doing whatever I can do, what people will allow me to do. I think by the end of this year, I'll be quite happy with where I am again, material-wise. That's always what keeps me going, really.
All right, kind of hold the show, get it as good as possible, and wait for your Airbnb in Tenerife to hopefully materialise.
And then at some point, go to the Edinburgh Festival. But I want to look at what they put in the way of us all having fun before I commit to that.
Well, of course, like the price of like accommodation and also PR.
Dude, we didn't even have time to bitch about the fucking Edinburgh Festival.
Mate, that's all right. Another time.
Yeah.
So where can we find you, Joe?
You can find me on Instagram at Joe Foster Comedian, on Facebook at Joe Foster Comedian. I've not got a TikTok because I'm not a 12-year-old girl, but I will. I actually have one, but I never use it, so don't bother with that. You can find me. Did you know what? This is going to be the worst one. You can find me on email. You can get me on the phone. I will be somewhere near you. If you want to message me on Instagram, I'll tell you if I'm going somewhere near you soon.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Joe, thanks for coming on the show, man. And good luck with the Joe Foster Hits the Roof, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Thanks, man. And have a good weekend /lockdown /Christmas, not to timestamp it.
Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas to you too, man.
Merry Christmas, man. Catch you later.
And that was episode 89 with the excellent Joe Foster. He's on Instagram, he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook. Go and see him live. Everything's starting to move now and all the comedy gigs are opening up. So go and check him out. All the fringes he's going to be playing that show. Joe Foster Hits the Roof. He's an excellent comedian. So this intro is going to be really short. You can find us on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, The Comedy Defect. We've got a Facebook group. You can like the page. You can donate to us. Go to Patreon, type in The Comedy Defect Podcast, and donate as much as you feel this podcast is worth. And if you can't donate, that's okay. Share your favorite episode, tell your friends about it, tells people where we are and what we're up to. And go on whatever platform you find your podcasts on and leave us a nice, honest review, because that really helps us as well. But until the next time, I'm going to make this intro really, really short. We've got another excellent comedian. He's gigged all around the place. He's done The Fringe, he's done Top Secret, he's done Comedy Store. He is from Birmingham direction. He is Jay Handley for episode 90. That's episode 90, Jay Handley. That's the end of September. And all I'll say is enjoy the rest of your August. I'm going to just get this done and get this out because I've got to drive to Chortle tomorrow for a gig. Until the end of September, I hope you had a great August. See you at the end of September.